Dear participants, I am welcoming you all to this session. We are going to give you the session online because there are some issues. Okay, today's session will be on assessment and feedback. First of all, let us come to know about types of assessment. Two kinds of assessment are there: formative assessment and summative assessment. Formative assessment happens during learning process. For example, when our learning process goes on, during our learning process, we actually conduct some assessment. So this kind of assessment is called formative assessment. While we give actually lecture, from time to time, we can ask questions to our students. So here, asking questions is a kind of formative assessment. Or we can give our students 1 minute paper, and we can assess the responses the students give in 1 minute paper. So assessment of the 1 minute papers are also a kind of is also a kind of formative assessment. So let us see some examples of formative assessment. These are the examples of formative assessment. You can ask your students question. You can give them quizzes, and peers can assess. Peer assessment can be there. One student can assess the other student, and also presentation. Your student can do class presentation, and you can assess them. You know that how we assess you through presentation. In the afternoon session, you give presentation, and we assess. Also, we give you feedback. 1 minute paper. Yesterday, I mean, the previous session, you came to know how to use 1 minute paper. So 1 minute paper is a kind of formative assessment. And also think, pair, share. Think, pair, share is an active learning activity, and also at the same time, it can be used as a way of assessment. When students actually share their idea, when students share their ideas, so you can assess on their sharing, on their responses. And also multiple choice question, MCQ can be another kind of formative assessment. So these are the examples of formative assessment that you can use. Okay. Uh, so now let us move on, and let us go to next idea, next concept. It is summative assessment. So formative assessment, the examples of formative assessment, we have come to know about examples of formative assessment. Now we will go ahead and come to know about summative assessment. Summative assessment is a method which actually comes at the end of the learning process. The aim of the summative assessment is to give a grade or a kind of rating. So on the other hand, when we actually do formative assessment, our aim is to give a student feedback for improvement, showing their strengths and weaknesses. But when it comes to summative assessment, we usually give a student's grade, we give a student rating. Uh, what are the examples of summative assessment? Just look at here. Standardized testing, it is a kind of summative assessment. If I would like to give some specific examples of standardized testing, there can be uh, SSC exam, ACC exam, honors exam, master's exam. These are actually a standardized testing. And also capstone presentation. Capstone presentation is another example of summative assessment. Capstone presentation means final presentation. We can assess and we can give grade, we can give rating uh, on final presentation of the student. And also final exams. Okay, final exam. first year final, second year final, third year, fourth year final. They are the they are the examples of final exams. On final exam, we actually assess our student. We give them grade. Uh, this is another example. A graded assignment. Some assignment can be there. Assignment actually. When they are graded and their marks is added to the final exam, assignment can also be summative assessment. Portfolio is the collection of students' best works. Sometimes there can be a collection of students' best works, and this can be a kind of assessment. And also project, students do project. By doing project, a student can learn actually practically, they learn better. So projects can be a kind of summative assessment. So far we have come to know about formative assessment and summative assessment. Which assessments are formative assessments, which assessments are summative assessments. Okay. Summative assessments, formative assessments have some aspects, and summative assessments also have some aspects which I have already discussed. Okay, you know that formative assessment. Let us tell about these two assessments more. Formative assessments actually occurs throughout the course. And on the other hand, summative assessments occurs at the end of the instructional period. And the aim of the formative assessment is to identify the gap and improve learning. And the aim of the summative assessment is to collect evidence of a student's knowledge, skill, or proficiency. Actually, we just you know give some grade, give some rating on the skill, knowledge, and proficiency that our students achieve. And approaches that support specific students' needs. So we actually find out students' strengths and weakness. Then we actually give some support their need, the students' need. Formative assessment actually helps teacher find out a student's need. Sometimes they need more, sometimes they need less. So formative students is guideline for both the students and the teachers. On the other hand, summative assessment is a cumulative assessment, and actually we see a student's achievement. We actually judge students' achievements at the end. So this is how we can actually see formative and summative assessment. Let us go ahead, and here you can see you can see some an activity. Okay, an activity. Just look at here. We can do the activity. Just you can keep thinking on. Keep thinking on. You can actually guess. So performance task. What kind of assessment it can be? It can be a formative assessment. It can be formative assessment. So here I can write F. Okay, formative assessment. And questioning. If you ask question in the class, it can be a formative assessment. And also standardized test. Standardized test means SSC exam, ACC exam, and also honors and masters exam. They are standardized tests. They are summative exam. And homework assignment. Okay, when you give homework to your students, they are actually formative assessment. And also Kahoot quizzes. You see we actually give you Kahoot quizzes. So Kahoot quizzes are formative exam, formative assessment. And peer assessment, they are also peer assessment. One student assess the other student. It is kind of formative assessment. Chapter test can be both actually. Usually it is formative assessment, chapter test. Interview, summative assessment. Interview, viva is there, and marks of viva is actually added to final exam. So it is summative exam. Year final exam, it is formative exam. It is formative exam. Final project. Okay, project is actually a kind of a big assessment. So it is a kind of final assessment. So it is a summative assessment. And survey and poll is a small scale assessment. So it is a formative assessment. Survey and polls are formative assessment. In class student presentation, it is not capstone presentation. Capstone presentation is summative assessment, but in class student presentation is formative assessment. So we have done an activity to understand summative assessment and formative assessment. Okay, now let us go ahead. Actually, let us move on. Let us move on. Hmm. Let's move on. Authentic assessment. Okay, just authentic. Okay, I am going to give you some idea about authentic assessment. Authentic assessment is a kind of assessment which we actually conduct to see a student's real life practical ability. Look, life doesn't occur. Life doesn't occur in MCQ. Life doesn't occur in essay. So an essay test or an MCQ test cannot actually cannot show a student's real life ability. So if you want to see a student's practical ability, real life ability, we must see a student's performance practically. For example, if we want to assess one's driving skill, we must see how that person drives. We cannot assess that person through an essay test or an MCQ test. Also, when we assess a person's drawing skill, uh, we uh, we need to see that person's some picture, some pictures that person has drawn, just to assess that person's ability. We cannot ask that person to write an essay, or we cannot ask the person to take to take an MCQ test. So authentic assessment is an assessment which is actually based on real life. Also, okay, so I believe that you have come to know about formative assessment and summative assessment. Now you can give some example of formative assessment and summative assessment. Also, you have come to know about authentic assessment. Now, I am going to tell you about feedback. Okay, when you actually conduct formative assessment, we actually need to give feedback to our students on their performance. When they perform something, of course, some weaknesses can be identified, and also some strengths will come out. So we need to focus our students' strengths and areas for improvement. Okay, both we have to identify, and we have to inform our students where their weaknesses are, where their strengths are. So we need to give feedback. You know, feedback is important. Okay, feedback is called the breakfast of champions. If you want to be champions, if you need to get feedback, you need to receive feedback. So the more feedback you will get, the more feedback you will incorporate in your learning process. You will the greater you will be, the more successful you will be. So feedbacks are important. So if you want to get your students, if you want to see your students champions, you need to give a lot of feedback to them, enough feedback to them, and specific feedback to them, and relevant feedback to them. So feedback actually will help to in, uh, uh, to identify to know their weak areas and their strong areas. So tell your students they are weak, where they are weak, and where they are strong. So feedback actually is important because we identify gaps. You know, feedback enhances learning. Feedback actually improves performance of our students. So feedback is important. So how can we give feedback? Look, we actually feedback. We can give feedback in a lot of ways. Sometimes we just focus on student strengths. Okay, you are good. Your work is excellent. Yes, we appreciate your work. This is how actually we give feedback. This kind of feedback is called positive feedback. And also negative feedback we can also give. So look, yes, we know that negative feedback the students receive, but students do not like always criticism. Okay, criticism actually may dishearten them sometimes. They feel ashamed. They feel uh, pessimistic when they receive negative feedback. Though teachers, most of the teachers tend to give negative feedback in order to correct the students, in order to improve students. But beside giving negative feedback, we believe that some praise teachers should extend to their students, so that the student actually do not feel offended by the negative feedback on the. So negative feedback actually doesn't work always. Constructive feedback. So what is constructive feedback? When constructive feedback is the best feedback. Constructive feedback means when we give feedback, we have to give a student actually we have to inform a student both their weaknesses and strengths. uh, Otherwise, they will not get a balanced idea about their performance. If we just criticize them, they may lose their heart. They may feel discouraged. They may feel offended. So we have to actually think from the student side. So we need to actually mix up praise and criticism. Praise and criticism. Just look at here. This is another kind of feedback. Actually, sandwich feedback. It is a kind of feedback where which is most favorite to we teachers actually. Those who are actually good teachers, those who care about their students, they tend to give sandwich feedback. So sandwich feedback is a kind of feedback. Actually, there are top one is a positive feedback, and bottom one is positive feedback, and in the middle actually a negative feedback or constructive feedback is given. Negative feedback is in the middle. So it is actually like that: praise, criticism, praise. I am telling you again: praise, criticism, praise. In the middle, criticism is in the middle. You start with praise, then you criticize your student, then again you conclude with praise. So praise, criticism, praise. This is how actually we can give feedback. And you know that when in the seminar session we give you feedback, we usually maintain sandwich feedback. You very well have noticed that we don't always criticize you actually. At the beginning we praise you, then we criticize you in the middle, then again we actually praise. So this is how actually we can actually give sandwich feedback. Okay, it is very interesting feedback, but when giving feedback, you need to be constructive, and also uh, you need to be brief, and you need to be formal, and of course, don't give a lot of feedback together, because you have to actually limit the number of feedback. You can give 1, 2, 3 feedback at a time. If you give your student a great many feedbacks, actually they may be lost. Okay, and they may not receive any feedback you have given to them. So remember that you have to limit your feedback. Actually, give several feedback, not many feedback. Okay, this is how you can give feedback, and you have feedback have to be comprehensive during actually summative assessment. Okay, so this is how actually, and feedback give feedback immediately when it is formative assessment, and for summative assessment give more comprehensive feedback. So this is how actually you can give feedback. Now I am going to tell you about the TGW of today. So what you need to do, I am trying to explain the TGW that you are going to do today. Just look at here. Consider two learning outcome for your intended lesson. Of course, you have been dealing with a lesson plan for previous 2 days. Okay, previous 2 days, and you know how to formulate learning outcome. So consider two learning outcome, and those two learning outcome actually write two assessment strategies. Just look at here. uh, you know, yesterday you actually wrote two learning active learning activities for two learning outcomes. Today you will write two assessment strategies for learning outcomes. So actually your two assessment strategies must align with your learning outcomes. And look at here. So the two learning, the two assessment you actually will choose. One will be formative assessment and the other will be summative assessment. So two assessment you will actually choose. One of them will be formative assessment and the other will be summative assessment. And assessment method, both assessment should must align with the two learning outcome. Actually, learning outcome is your main target. Whatever you do should be consistent with the learning outcome, and also support one group. Let us do another activity. There is actually these first 3 points are about assessment. Okay, assessment, and another is feedback. Okay, another is about feedback. So you know that suppose one group in the seminar session has incorporated formative assessment. It is actually a kind of imaginary activity. For example, one group, okay, for example, group 1A has incorporated formative assessment correctly, but not aligned with learning outcome. Of course, you can see that. So they actually, group A, for example, has written learning outcome and formative assessment both. They are formative assessment are correct. Okay, but formative they have incorporated formative assessment correctly. Look, they have incorporated formative assessment correctly, but uh, those formative assessments are not aligned with learning outcome. So one thing is correct, the other thing is incorrect. So one mistake is there, one strength is there, one weakness is there. So this is the actually case. It is a case is given. A case is given to you here. How actually will you do? How will you give feedback in that case? You know that you always give feedback to other group, other presenting group. So here you have to give actually feedback. You have to give feedback to that group A. So group 1A. So group 1 actually can give feedback on the work of group 1A. So 1B will give feedback on the work of 1A. So actually identifying the strength and weakness. Of course, here the group that will feedback will follow constructive feedback method, and also I mean sandwich feedback method. Look, so you actually will write down, you will will write down uh, how you will give a constructive feedback or a sandwich feedback to that group this kind of case. Okay, so finally, let me tell you about the TGW again. You have to actually write two learning outcomes, and for that two learning outcome, you will actually write two assessment. Okay, assessment, and also you will actually write feedback. What kind of feedback you are going to give? What kind of feedback you are going to give? And so actually two things. One is assessment, and the other is feedback. how to give feedback. So on these two things you are going to work. Of course, you can use your previous lesson plan template. You just put these things inside your lesson plan template to prepare to do your TGW uh, trainer facilitated group work. So I think you have received primary idea, general idea about today's session, and I think this lecture this lecture will help you to do your TGW. Now we are requesting you to be involved in TGW, and in the evening session, in the afternoon session, hope we will meet again. Thank you very much for being with us.